Pankaj bhai, apne Bahel sahab also has joined us.
Yeah, thank you, Deva. It's 6 p.m. sharp. So, on behalf of Hyderabad branch of SARC of I take pleasure in welcoming two very distinguished persons uh, from Hyderabad. You can say we are very proud that they are in Hyderabad. CA Rakesh Singhania ji and CA Satish Kottakota. Both people highly successful in their respective fields. Let me not talk too much about them. Their talk will tell what they are, but I'll be doing a formal introduction. For both of you, we are doing this program as a part of nurturing the profession and professionals, whereby we always felt that there is some gap between the members in practice, members in industry. Though we do interact each other, but the interaction has been very limited to your auditors and your set of people, and there is not a major interaction with many other persons. So we thought, why not call, hear your perspective about how best this talent can be used for the industries. Is there only audit or some works, or the chartered accountants can also start exploring in some different areas where you as a CFO can also feel like, I know you just you can share your views, but a small thing if you can cover, how do you think that the members can use their expertise and use their technique in doing works for any industries, which will help them get some good exposure? If you can also cover that, sir, it would be great. As when two great people are here, wisdom says that I should keep my mouth shut. So thereby hand it over to you for a quick opening remarks, and then I shall introduce both of them and we'll start the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Pankaj bhai, Chairman. It's indeed pleasure to have both of very good friends who have come from an industry background. Rakesh Singhania, and who is the CFO of Wells Fargo India, and Satish Kottakota, who is the CFO of Spandana Spurti, which is again a BFSI company. The beauty about today's, having these two extremists is basically global, one of the oldest US bank from Wells Fargo, which is there, and their major setup, which is out of US, is in India. And we have Rakesh, who's been managing the entire setup at the back end in India, and that is where I think the industries are moving towards, and his exposure on the international side also has been great. He's also taken this company. I have seen how he grew this company from 1x to multiple X. I mean, Rakesh and his because I have been interacting with him from quite a number of years, and his way of looking at ICAI and the chartered accountants is totally different, and I have been getting encouragement from him on different ways. One of such thing was primarily when he talked about what a chartered accountant should be, a CFO should be expecting from a chartered accountant. Where is that chartered accountant should be trained is primarily on the different kind of decision making desk which need to be done. A lot of things which is, I hope he is going to discuss today. What is expectation and how those things are. And second side, we have Satish, who's been heading call health for quite a long time, and then now he's in Spandana Spurti, which is again a grassroots banking system or a financial system, which is on the basic NBFC primarily, which is doing on multiple financing activities at a state level, national level also. So two extremes when we talk about the financial institutions, we have a very good mix of both of them, and they have seen what kind of lending, what kind of expectation, all those things are there. And one of the most important thing, Rakesh and Satish, I would like to say, last year, if you remember, when I took over charge from Devraj Reddy sir, we conducted one particular program in Trident, where we invited all the CFOs across Hyderabad, and we had almost 80 to 85 CFOs who have attended the program, and was well appreciated. This year also we had to do that, but unfortunately because of COVID it is impacted. So we have one particular committee which is called CMIB, which is Committee for Members in Industry and Business, which is exclusively been designed for only for those members who are in industry and business both. So it's not that, only employment, but also entrepreneurs are performing part of that group. And fortunately, we have got a special approval in Center of Excellence with regards to form an exclusive committee for the members in industry so that we can reach out and give them the best what we can give. So that is again one thought which was coming is it can be industry specific sessions which we can plan, and also people specific sessions which we can plan, and which we are trying to do. Today we have on the participant our new dean who has joined the Center of Excellence Hyderabad. I'll be introducing you again on that particular side. So we are actually working out to design a new curriculum with regards to the management lessons, which is one of the most important thing. And I think the etiquettes is not the right word, but I think the corporate style of living is something which we need to train our people, and we need to educate them. The people today are adaptable. And only when they get in, then they realize that, okay, this is what I need to do. What is happening with MBAs is primarily that they are getting trained in that, MBA colleges, and they have different kind of curriculum which has been designed. But our focus has been on the financial statements always. And we missed out somewhere on the way we need to take things forward. And currently, when we talk about the next CFO part, this is something which I would like to really emphasize on. Expectation from the industry is totally different these days. Whether you talk from the manager, owner, who are the equity investors and all. Second side is when you talk about management and the independent directors, which the expectations today are totally different. Number three is the expectation of CFO himself with regards to on the left and the right, which is primarily the promoter, and then the employee and the stakeholders. And the stakeholders include the government, the tax authorities, then shareholders, then the banking and financial institutions, where we need to really report in a different perspective, which Satish might actually have gone through a different process. But expectation from you, Rakesh, also from a management point of view, because it is a shared service opportunity which is there. Obviously, the kind of responsibility which is going to be placed on you also will be totally different. And that is a different way of looking at things. And Satish's way of looking at things is totally different. So I think today we'll have a very good combination where our young chartered accountants who are looking at this session will really appreciate, when you talk about an organization which is more of a foreign-driven approach, which is more of a structured. I have worked with you in your organization where, even our laptops are not allowed to be taken inside. And there are many such things which is on the security side, which has been looked into, and a lot of other, you have, you actually do your vendor system testing, and a lot of expectation like that are there when you want to work with an international organization. So Pankaj bhai, I'll take 1 or 2 more minutes, so don't mind, but we need to set the entire context right. So I was just sharing this because you told me to keep it crisp, but I'll try my level best to make it as small as possible. So Rakesh and Satish, what is going to happen? What is happening is, one side, when an employee joins an organization like Wells Fargo, it is totally on a different note, and the way and the culture which has been followed is different. When you join a company like Spandana Spurti, the management expectation, the people expectation, bankers expectation, tax expectation are totally different. More importantly, the expectation of your juniors also change. And today, are we actually going in the process? Do the corporates have a culture primarily that, are you nurturing new CFOs? Are you seeing some out of 10 of your team, one person, yes, this guy is someone who can actually be taken up. This guy is weak, I need to nurture this guy also. Is that kind of mechanism which is there in your organization? Or do we have to, think about creating that kind of, environment, structuring the entire learning process with our own people, in some or the other form, which I don't know what is the right form, but I think you can guide us in that regard. So is that something which we need to look at? And what is your expectation from ICI where we can actually come up and meet? So as a council member, as a Pankaj Bhai being a chairman of the branch, and both of us have been working with the industry, we also find sometimes there is a gap. And there is a huge amount of opportunity which is there. Might be that quality, if it is tweaked, the expectation of earnings also will change. And the way and reach which is going to be there. And more important part after this COVID, I think, are we going to see some different new CFOs? Because the experience is going to be there with someone, and might be, the wherewithal of using systems and technology will not be there. And the people who have that knowledge of technology use might not have that kind of experience to handle an organization. So are we actually creating a mid path which is going to come together? Are we going to have a CFO at level 1 and CFO level 2 and CFO level 3 or financial controller, what we call? There might be different kind of thought process which are going to come into role and responsibility, and more importantly on the cyber risk side, because cyber risk is ultimately going to impact an organization and its financial system. And more importantly, those frauds are to be reported in our audited results and financial statements also. So there are more such kind of things which are actually coming our head. But we would like to really understand from you and learn from you. I think the people who are sitting are really going to appreciate what you are. If I am, what is that you are looking at? If our young chartered accountant is coming to you, what are you looking at? What is that finer points which we need to really look into, so that we can ensure that we exclusively work on that and we are at par with any of the MBA students? Because knowledge is fantastic, but I think the way we need to present is something which is missing out. And if we are able to work closely with you all people, it will make a whole lot of difference. So we would like to listen from you on these all aspects. And friends, one thing which is very important to note, which we would like to keep it on record also, both of the gentlemen come from a very large organization. But this session which they are going to talk about is going to be their individual opinion. So please don't think that it is a opinion of their organization or a setup in which they are working, because they are again with a different kind of code of ethics they need to follow. So we have requested them that we are going to take it in your good spirit, and your views are going to be independent views rather than a positional view where you are actually occupying a seat. So please note down that and more important part is both of us are going to be there till end. And first we are going to have Rakesh ji speaking, and then Satish speaking, and then whatever kind of questions you have, request you to kindly raise, so that if those things, if they are going to be cryptic about any statement, let us take it positive, because they are our own people who are going to share their views. Where are we lacking? If we get to know, if our family member tells us that this is where I am lacking, then it is a very good opportunity for us to really put it right and face the world externally. So let us have this box in which we are learning the entire process, taking it positively and moving forward in a very effective manner. Both of you, really thank you. We know that you are really tied up with multiple commitments and all, and particularly on a Friday evening, Rakesh, for you, I know it is a Friday morning for US to work on, and you need to put in a lot of your structured reporting in this thing. And Satish, I can understand your commitment also with regards to time which you are giving, and appreciate on the during the quarter end and the financial year end also, both things are going together. This is the first time that it's going to happen, but we are struggling to the entire process. And both of you, thank you very much for coming today, and request you to kindly encourage if you want to be strict about making a statement, take a liberty, because it is all for our good. Even if you want to share such suggestions for our institute, I'll be more than happy to listen to it. And assurance is that we are going to implement it effectively, and within no time you are going to see some good development. So over to you, Pankaj Bhai. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Dev. See, I also learned something. From tomorrow, I'll not ask you to do a brief opening remark, and from now on I'll just request you to give your opening. Bahut dil se baat kare, setting the expectations right. Yes, and today even I agree that it is CA Rakesh Singhania and CA Satish Kottakota, members of the institute, who are coming and talking to us, and it has got nothing to do. The views are purely their personal views and do not represent the views of the companies they work on, because as we also say that whenever we are doing, the views are our own views and does not represent the views of institute. It's the same way. So let me first introduce Rakesh Singhania ji, who is a senior vice president and a chief financial officer of Wells Fargo India, and his responsibilities span across India and Philippines. Apart from finance, Rakesh ji is also responsible for the legal and frontline risk. Rakesh has been with the Wells Fargo India for over 11 years and has been a major contributor to its growth over the last decade. Rakesh ji has over 30 years of experience in various aspects of corporate finance in FMCG and IT services industries. During the course of his career, Rakesh ji has led number of M&A activities. Prior to joining Wells Fargo, Rakesh ji was CFO of the IT division of Cambridge Solutions Limited, where, as a part of management team, he led many strategic initiatives. He worked with Polaris Software Lab Limited as Senior Vice President Finance, where he was responsible for strategic, finance, business, planning, and investors relationship. Rakesh ji holds a commerce degree from Calcutta University and is a qualified chartered accountant. I present Rakesh ji to the august audience. But let me also take it as a privilege to introduce Satish ji also. Satish Kottakota is a chartered accountant with exposure across financial services, FMCG, ITES, across Coca-Cola, ICICI, HSBC Global, and Call Health. Recently, he joined Spandana Spurti Financial Limited, India's largest microfinance NBFC in terms of profits and second largest in terms of market cap. He is passionate about business, partnership that accountants can do with business through various value adds like decision support, digital deployments, influencing policy and framework, thinking big and long term instead of living in current challenges. He comes from Sompet, Srikakulam district, Andhra Pradesh, and is very proud to be a chartered accountant compared to his other degrees from INSCAD and courses from other global institutions. He is a guest speaker and visitors at IIMs, ISB, IITs, and other B schools. He is also an advisory board member of few startups and many in our orientation programs. I had the fortune of hearing him, and many young chartered accountants have benefited from his lectures. So over to both the speakers. Rakesh, your presentation first, and then we can have Satish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for those kind words, Pankaj and Daya, and I hope I will be able to do just some justice to whatever you've laid such huge expectations from me. And I've just put some thoughts together just to give some orderly to my thoughts. And is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. It is.
Yes.
Yeah, but only you can just expand it. Right.
So, Rakesh, one thing before you start, we will actually minimize our screen,
Sure.
switch off. You can continue. We are here only. Pankaj Bhai is fully active. I am also fully active.
No worries. So, good evening, my friends from the Institute. It's my pleasure to come and speak to you. I hope I will be able to add some value to to you guys. Let me, before I really, think in terms of what the new CFO looks like, and I think we must talk a little bit about what the traditional role of the CFOs have been, and none of these changes literally in any scenario. Traditionally, we've been, part of a controllership role. We, to make sure that our accounts and books of accounts, and of course, our compliance to all the policies and so on is of course taken care of. One of the significant roles we have played is really as a business partner to the various, functional heads, business heads, to the CEOs and the very other C-suite people, and helping them understand and realize and achieve their financial goals, from an overall business perspective. And of course, one of the most important things is which the traditional role has been, of course, is working capital management, making sure that we have enough liquidity in the system to ensure that the engines of the business are always run, and we are not hampered in any manner from that perspective. And another very important part, of course, is the managing the external stakeholders, which is which could be your shareholders, your government regulators, your investors, and so on and so forth. And I'm not going to dwell much on this, because I think what is happening is all this is you probably are well aware of these sort of roles, and it is continuing to engine. And as I said earlier, none of these will go away, because these are some basic foundations of the business, which is happening across and which will need to continue. But from where I sit and across, and if I look at businesses across the world, what is really happening into the businesses are being seen a huge amount of disruptions happening in the businesses. Traditional way of doing business is just not there. And as Satish has been in Call Health, and was in Call Health, you would have never heard of a business like Call Health impacting some of the traditional businesses, in maybe about 5 years ago. So it's been, and to me, I think the CFO is really turning out to be a very pivotal role, working in a very cross-functional manner, and driving the change and leading the transformation across organizations. And to me, and I go back and I look at my, and of course I passed CA a long time back with a different curriculum. But when you look at, you look from a numbers perspective, a business perspective, talk to the businesses, or even from an audit perspective, I think our education or qualification gives us a very, very good overview about the businesses, what are the business drivers, and helps us to understand what is really important, from a business perspective. That's, I think, is a huge plus point, for us as a finance person. Now, let's understand what is really happening in the businesses. And, to me, what is, and as I said about from a disruptions perspective, and major disruptions are happening across the industry. But in the same manner, major disruption, forget about the finance. The change in technology learned 2 years ago or 3 years ago probably becomes passé or irrelevant today. And therefore, you have to constantly reinvent yourself and understand technology, which should be able to drive your business and at the same time help you in strategizing the role of a finance area, and also helping the businesses think strategically very differently. Now, years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, nobody would have heard of artificial intelligence or technologies like, blockchain or machine learning, etc. And these technologies are now becoming an extremely important technologies in analyzing data to really look forward, from a business perspective. I think one of the important things which is, happening is on the digital side and the new age technologies, if we can convert and talk about from that digital perspective. I think all accountants, chartered accountants, whether you are an experienced person or you're a fresher, will have to start becoming extremely digital savvy. And at some point of time, the CFOs will have to drive the business journey from a digital perspective. Because we, as I said earlier, from an overall finance perspective, we understand what's going on in the business. We understand what are the various
Sir, one second.
imperatives of the business. We see business, so that outlook is extremely important. Yeah, sorry.
Rakesh, in fact, a couple of chats have come wherein they are saying that audio is lagging. So just check the internet connectivity at your place. I'm also trying to bring it. So is the connectivity fine? Because from my side, it's showing as proper only. So.
Yeah, well, it's showing fine from my side as well.
So I think it should supplies. Maybe it was just a casual. No problem. Continue. I think it should step back.
Okay, because I'm not seeing anything as a poor connection or anything of that sort.
It looks like the problem is
the last couple of sentences were quite carry on.
And let's understand from what the journey looks like. To me, I think the first part is really from an automation are becoming extremely automated. And financial data pretty much comes as a standalone because you are cutting and slicing the data in various manners. But the most important tool from a digital perspective is how do you integrate the entire data, whether it's through the supply chain or whether through the ops or whether through any other means of production or whatever it may be. And that's the power of digital technology, which is going to keep the business one step ahead from your competitors. And therefore, we as finance professionals will have to make sure that we are the front end of that sort of analysis, which really means that all of us will have to constantly upskill ourselves in these sort of tools on a regular basis, and that is going to be all those people who can actually upskill themselves will continue to thrive in organizations that will help work through very various cross-functional problem areas and provide solutions to them. And that is going to be the power of these technologies in organizations. And as we improve, I think there is a real crying need from various stakeholders to have CFOs look from a long-term perspective. I know the stakeholders will always look from a various short-term perspective, because in this world of listed entities, you only work from quarter to quarter, And that's important because that's how you manage the stakeholders. But I think it's very important that that the finance professionals, while looking at the short-term view, also takes a long-term view. Because ultimately, to be the finance professionals who will have to go and be the storyteller to the market and to the various investors and the others of what's the value which is being created in the long term from a business perspective. This is, as the businesses perform and the businesses are valued more from a long-term perspective, the CFOs have to be great storytellers in telling them how the business is looking from a long-term perspective. And this, the CFOs can only achieve if they have, put good KPIs, which is key performance indicators, have good metrics across it, use various dashboards, etc., to help the businesses drive and improve the performance indicators. The other part is, of course, which is an extension of, from creating a long-term, is to provide the strategic leadership, to the businesses, through helping them create value in the businesses. I think one of the advantages, as we see from the business from an overall perspective, and probably look at a very impartial view, we can be actually very good change agents. Now, and change agents, transformation, all this go hand in hand, and therefore any finance professionals will have to be extremely, through as a change agent needs to be, motivational, to be able to motivate their teams or the businesses as well, be extremely inspirational through their storytelling and the other parameters, and at the same time lead by example in their behaviors, in value creation, and so be it, or whatever it may be. I think one of the most important aspects, and which we forget, a lot of times, is for finance professionals, is to be able to drive the talent agenda in the organization, not only in their functions, but across across functions, in terms of whether you're talking about from a compensation perspective or whatever it may be, or really getting people improving their learning and development skills and so on. And why I say this, because as finance professionals, we know how the allocation of resources, etc., can be made. And the CEOs, of course, visionaries of organizations, and CHRO, or the head of HR, are literally the orbital of the talent and manage the performance ethics and so on of the organization. So this troika of the CFOs, HR heads, and the CEOs can really be in the forefront of driving the talent across the organization. So if I may, these in a nutshell say that finance professionals will have to lead from the front and drive changes in the organization in a massive manner. And this is how the businesses would be driven in the future. Finances will have, for the CFOs, will have to move from the back room to the front room. And I believe that there are a lot of organizations which are looking for CFOs towards that. The other thing which I'm going to talk about is really on the, just a minute, And there's something which, to me as personally, what I have, just a minute, yeah, which I've learned through the pandemic. The pandemic has been a different situation altogether. And I'm sure all of us have different experiences. And I think this experience is going to help us to, as finance professionals, to understand and the businesses much better, and to be even a better change and a transformation agent going forward. So what has the pandemic literally taught me? That the disruptions and shocks are here to stay. But shocks like this particular pandemic would be probably become a more common fare than it has been in the past. I have never seen such a thing in my entire career, or rather in my lifespan. And who knows, these things may come up any point of time. And therefore, the question for us is to be, are we prepared for such pandemics and such shocks in the future? I think what is also important is this pandemic is telling all the businesses, and especially the CFO, that how do we create a balance between the opportunity and the adversity while we're continuing to protecting from shocks. And and I'm sure all of you are running the businesses, you would have faced this problem day after day, right from the beginning of the lockdown, when a lot of industries were struggling or were totally shut. And how do you therefore find, and as they opened and started operating, how do you find opportunities to make sure that the business remains sustainable in these times? I think one of the greatest learnings from me has been that I don't have to push paper all the time. I don't have to deal with paper. I can work and live without paper. And therefore, I need to make sure that I personally invest in technology. I also make sure that my organization invests in technology, because working from home is probably something which will be here for quite some time. Now, I don't know whether it is going to be forever, whether it will change in 2 years or 3 years, but it has certainly changed the way we have done business. And at least it has changed the way we're going to do business for some more time. What I've also learned is in an era where you have limited resources, we need to go back to zero-based budgeting. And therefore, we need to continue to plan for different scenarios. Somewhere, probably we do scenario planning, but not in an as robust a manner as is required now, because we don't know what is going to happen in the future. And this, future is uncertain for us in various ways. And therefore, to be able to plan for different scenarios helps you to keep up your guard against the various shocks which can come in the economies. The other thing is speed of change. We need to be ultra fast in changing. We can't sit and ponder over it. And I'm not going to use the word procrastinate, but sometimes we do procrastinate over changes. There is no such luxury available anymore. You have to change, you have to act at extraordinary speed. The other thing which I've learned is be a leader. Just being a manager is not going to help. You will have to learn, as we said, as I was telling you earlier, you will have to lead by example. And therefore, one of the most important things in this work from home I have learned is how do you manage and learn from different generations. In any organizations, the generation changes probably every 5 years nowadays. How do you learn from them? How do you help them to achieve their objectives? How do you manage them? Based on their aspirations, their way of looking at doing things, their way of looking at things, their way of looking at businesses, their way of looking at tasks, and so on. And last but not the least is always hire the best talent, invest in them, uh, help them rise up in the organization, help them learn new things, help learn to even take risks with them. They will probably fail a couple of times, but encourage them always to do better. I think all this is also going to be extremely important for us going forward. And all these experiences are going to, I'm sure, is going to help us become better financial professionals and be able to manage to live with these uncertainties, not only business uncertainties, but even the environmental changes which is happening across the economic world. So I'll stop here and would be happy to hear from Satish.
Hey, thank you, Amit.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
please take it.
So I think, thanks, Rakesh. You seem to have covered some of the points that I thought. That also gives me a lot of confidence that everybody is thinking on the same lines, and what I'm going to talk is kind of vetted and validated by a veteran in the industry. I appreciate the time. Coming to what a CFO typically should do, for me is think out of the box and just don't be sticking to the CFO that you have seen in your life is my one and only observation. And the change can be in many manners. Apologies, the presentation is one page. I just did in a few minutes. Couldn't really spend time on making it, but I'm sure I'll cover the subject soon. So what we typically see a CFO does is accounting, financial reporting, regulatory conversations, and touch with them, strategy and fundraise, etc. The modern days, lives have changed so much. People get appreciated only when they do something beyond what is expected from a chartered accountant or what is expected from a CFO those days. So while I believe in everything that CFO is doing traditionally is very important, it cannot be compromised. The expectations are very clear. Has to be something more, something beyond, because the whole world expects us to continuously raise the bar, and what you have done yesterday will not be help you to do the same thing and grow your career, make the company grow. You must have heard what got you here won't take you there. So I fundamentally believe in the modern days, as everybody has covered, including Rakesh, that technology plays a very important role in our lives. It could be right from our own day planning, including how effectively you plan your day, how effectively you use your calendar, use your Zooms, whatever technology tools are being available in the market is all to increase your productivity. Use them extensively, not to break the internal security policies, of course. So the technology plays a role, be it on our ERP building, selecting the right ERP. Don't go by, oh, SAP is the market leader, close your eyes and buy an SAP. SAP probably will work for those industries and may not work for few industries. May not be cost effective for few companies and may not be user friendly for few companies, may not be flexible to get it integrated with a few of the technology platforms that we already have in the market or already have in the company. So evaluate and develop and deploy your strategies on technology. As I said, build backups and build reduce redundancy and reduce dependency on people. Doesn't mean people are not respected. Doesn't mean people are not required. They are required. They are required to do the smart work. They are required to do a job that cannot be done by a computer in the modern days. So for example, if somebody is doing a manual reconciliation in the current age to do a large organization's PRS, that is something that is not acceptable to anybody of consequence. It is to be automated. Probably 90% of the work has to be done by the robots, and only 10% of the work has to be done by the people. If we are spending money in creating employment and getting those things done manually, to me, it's a crime. If you have already identified, well and good. Otherwise, please go and identify where automation is possible. It could be, we are all known to be, a cheap labor available kind of country in terms of labor. I mean, in a workforce. Let us not take advantage of it. Is my past view.
Satish sir, they just want you to increase the presentation, like slideshow, if you can just get down.
Sure. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So build and do a proper ERP. And ERP comes with a lot of challenges, right? Whatever application that you bring, it comes with a lot of challenges. And do not say, oh, it is technology's job. It is your information. It is an accountant's job to make sure the information is secure, to make sure the ERP is well utilized. Simply having an ERP is not enough. How efficiently are we using the ERP? It is not just for accounting, right? It is for automation. It is for business intelligence. It is for standard dashboards to be built out of the ERPs. So make use of it. One, choosing the right product and investing in it. Two, making sure you enjoy the fruits out of it. I'm sure if you ask how the chartered accountants on this group, they know, how inefficiently the ERPs are being used these days, because they limit the feature of only accounting and do not really understand or do not really bother to invest on enjoying the fruits of it. Like an Excel, right? We all think, we understand good Excel with VLOOKUPs and macros. Probably that is not even 5% of the overall Excel, and no one can say no if we say our lives are depending around Excel compared to any other technology application. We can probably live without ERP, but we can't live without Excel in our day-to-day lives. So build those. Invest those times, invest those monies into technology, and get trained. If some technology guy says this is how the ERP works, we should be in a position to question the status quo, saying, this is not I want this way and I want this way. Sometimes we don't really question the status quo. We will continue to do the hard work, and later we realize, we could have done some lot of automation, and we could have made our lives easier. So to me, a technology includes a digital an organization, be it a paper. We have seen in our lives, right? Somebody issues a purchase order, somebody buys it. Before that, there is a budget approval. Post that, there is a budget. Again, accounting approval. Post that, there is an approval for payment. Why all? If you can have a complete or a basic system, with delegation of authorities clearly defined, probably our lives are much more easier. People are getting the alerts. People review and approve them through workflow mechanisms, and it goes to the right person. And of course, there's a technology which tracks who has to approve at what value, what location, etc., and who has to kind of follow automatically. The robot will send, or the technology product will send reminders to those who are sitting on without approvals for a couple of days, etc., etc. So make lives easier and invest your time on the right things is my first thing. To think out of the box. Typically we are seen as somebody who will question the spends in the company, not really bothered about increase in revenues, not really bothered about improvement of metrics. You can talk to anybody in the accounting background, or talk to non-accountants in the company. Chartered accountants, CFOs, or CAs or accountants are seen as somebody who controls cost. I think gone those days where we are to be seen only as a controllers of cost. We have to be controllers of everything, including the regulation, but our focus has to be on increasing the wealth. That means increasing the profitability, increasing the revenues. So increase the revenues or protect the revenues, decrease the cost or protect the cost, automatically jaws will improve. So probably our life has to move around jaws improvement and wealth creation rather than simply cost cutting. So, for example, typically when I'm a financial institution and I go and say, hey, somebody has offered me a loan of 5,000 crores at say, 10%, and I'm negotiating it. Probably our chances of making 5,000 crores, a 7,000 crore ticket size, if I can be flexible with a 0.5% of, cost interest rate. Look at the cost of fundraise, look at the cost of servicing a second loan, look at the, your pricing. If the regulators decided pricing has got enough flexibility, why are we bothered about 0.5% saving there? Your cost of fund, your processing fees, or your everything is included, right? So imagine I have a regulated price and I can't sell my product for more than 25%. I'm just giving you a hypothetical example. If you are able to sell the customer and if your pricing is much less than the competitor, better give 0.5% more to the banker and be happy taking more disbursements and be happy taking more support from the banker rather than keeping tight and thinking, and I've saved 0.5%. Think big picture. How effectively is it influencing your overall performance of the financial statements? And probably then you should take a decision whether still continue to fight for a reduction of 0.5% or you give up on 0.5% and gain elsewhere for 1.5%, including the cost of dealing with a separate debt. So my view, do not stick to cost saves. Look at overall impact on the business. Sometimes we don't give 10% increase, but we hire people at 40% higher cost from the market just because HR says, hey, I cannot give you more than this because of my bell curve. No, question the status quo. If I'm hiring somebody at a 5 lakhs rupees and if I'm having somebody at a 4 lakhs rupees trained and resource that I understand, I better to retain them, groomed him, invested in him for so much long time. I better to retain them rather than hiring from the market and dealing with an unknown angel. So my view, questioning the status quo is always very important, be it we are in the jobs or be it on the practicing areas. Planning financial, typically for us, financial planning means doing a massive Excel sheets or doing in Power BI or doing in some of the TM1 Cognos kind of tools, a complete Excel, jargon Excel work and say, hey, this is the number. But hand on heart, you ask anybody, they will only do the work. They won't really understand what exactly it means for the business. That is where you want a CFO. That is where you want a CEO to understand the numbers connected with the business. Why can't a CFO do? Why can't an accountant do the numbers connection with business? Just because I did a work, it doesn't mean that I don't understand it. So every time our accountant colleagues and friends get into an Excel work, they become Excel crunchers or a number crunchers. They don't understand the big picture of the business. While they are the one who does everything, only the CEO or COO or somebody from the business would do an interpretation and question why this or why not this. I think 80% of the effort goes into the accounting people, and the whole fruits are enjoyed by somebody else. I'm not saying there are enemies, but connect business with the numbers. Somebody sends financial statements to a banker on a daily basis. I'm just giving you a hypothetical example. When I ask him, hey, what exactly is your profitability? What exactly your capital adequacy ratio? What exactly is your reserves towards so and so structural liquidity requirements by the RBI? They don't know, because their job is to collect inputs or keep the financial statements audited by the auditors and keep sending it. I don't need a person with a chartered accountant background to do that, sending of financial statements to a banker or to an equity investor. I want somebody who can understand the numbers, take them through, and make them understand the numbers to do the job. If it is only collection of information and sending it, a robot can do, or a junior accountant without much qualification or without much training can do. So it is very important we look at a value addition at every level of our jobs. So if I'm sending 10 emails, I think we should question every day at the end of the day, does any of these emails do any value add to me or to the company or to the process or to the function that we are working? Otherwise, we are only junking others' emails, or we are just saying, okay, it is not in my code, I'm throwing it onto somebody else's code. But that code is also owned by the company to which you are the CEO, CFO, or whatever role you are. We always want to protect our backs and say, hey, here it is, please do the needful. I have seen many people sending emails saying, please do the needful, or FYI for your information. What does it mean? That means I have not read it. I'm sending it to you for your action or for your information. Probably somebody on the other side would be happier when you read it and do a value add and say, hey, this is what is the crux of this email. Please do the needful. Makes sense rather than simply sending FYI or FYA. I don't think anybody would appreciate. Probably your great people will accept it, and somebody who's above you think you're just doing an emailing, not really doing the value add. Coming to policies, you kind of, always think the policies are framed, they are cast in stone, and you can't do anything about it, and you continue to follow. And wherever you need to kind of, do something right for the business, probably you look for ways of, breaking the policies. Never do break the policy. You should question the policy, and why can't we influence, be it the, regulators, be it the lawmakers, question the policy making. Ask them why it cannot be done. I have seen plenty of instances wherein we questioned the policies made, we questioned the regulations made, and people took time, probably 3 months, 6 months, 24 months, whatever it is. Influence and be that maker who is part of that influence. As a chartered accountant fraternity, I think it's a huge opportunity. Any modern business, whether it is an FDI into multi-brand retail, or whether it is an online pharmacy, or whether it is an online doctor consultation, or whether it is an online lending business, there are no policies framed towards these industries, right? Can you sell medicines online? You ask a lawmaker, he will say you cannot sell. If you really see the policy, it says it has to be dispensed, medicine has to be dispensed by a pharmacist with a valid prescription. So if you really see today the policy, the process, you go to your pharmacist, you tell them I need this medicine, they give you, and no law questions, because he has got a valid pharmacy license. But at the same time, you go to a digital player like in a pharmacy, Call Health, NetMed, whatever the companies are, they ask you for prescription, gets validated by a pharmacist, because they follow the process. But if you still say if it is an online sale of medicines, people will shout it, and people will create a complex situation saying an online medicine sale is not allowed. Find a way, influence the law, talk to the policymaker, explain how digital companies can create a good trail to make sure drugs are sold only to authorized authenticated prescriptions, and how the prescriptions are stored and how it can be retrieved, how the whole India can track the medicine dispensary and consumption at a customer level or at a consumer level. Probably it takes 24 months, but let's be the people who influence the policymakers and do the right for country. For example, there is a group of people who have come from the large backgrounds, founders of Infosys, founders of board members of NABARD, founders of 1MG, Call Health, kind of large companies, right? With hundreds of crores of personal investment for a Section 8 company, and they are now building a health stack for the country. They are not exceptional people, right? They probably are thinking ahead of the game. What UPI could do to the financial services industry, there is nothing that can consolidate and keep every central data for a healthcare industry. So who is thinking? Why not a chartered accountant can think of these initiatives? When I really looked at it, I'm sorry guys, including myself, when these initiatives are taken, I've not seen a single chartered accountant who is considered, I firmly believe, one of the smartest on earth. Because we believe our job is accounting, our job is financial control, our job is cost control. We don't probably do a big job. Maybe some of you are doing, and really appreciate the fact, but probably a lot more opportunity to do things beyond what we are expected to do as part of our KRAs, what we are expected to do as part of our deliverables for the company. You ask anybody in today's world, even in today's world, accountants, financial control team especially, is not very friendly. They think they are the gatekeepers, they control the business, they control the cost, they probably handle regulations, etc. But can't we be friendly with people? Can't we build relations? Can't we explain the challenges that deal with? Instead of simply saying, as per sections for so and so, probably we should give them an understanding as to why it should not be done, instead of simply referring to sections and tax regulations. Probably that will build better relations and less of less of friction between people. I have noticed most of the times you see the largest or the highest friction in the organization between finance and others. Never HR, never technology, never any other function. But finance people are seen as the bad boys in the country, and finance guys also enjoy it. Oh, I'm the controller. I'm the one who's influencing this. They think they are making savings, or they think they are doing a lot more value add. Probably they think it, but how many people really appreciate that fact in public, including the CEOs, the board members, saying you've done a great job by saving so and so. They think we are all. They also think we are hurdles in their growth story. So building relations and going beyond. We have learned, right? substance over form. Accountants are known to be sticking to the form and not really bothered about substance. I think what we have learned is only go by substance. I mean, go by form and go by book law and book sections, etc. Probably we should think more about substance. One of the area we talk to anybody in finance, I'm sure you all will agree. Finance guys are the ones who go late from office. Everybody will probably close by 8 o'clock, but finance guys are known to be 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Why? Because we feel we are the owners. But probably things can be done better if we kind of build some automation tools, do a good planning and preparation, and some process based approach rather than doing things in haphazard manner. I firmly believe as a CFO or as a leader in finance function, we should give a firm confidence to the team. The team is always capable. Probably they need a guidance, they need a confidence, and sometimes every time a leader thinks the team is not able to handle, he will fold his sleeves and try to do it himself. I'm sure you have to demonstrate that you know things and you can handle yourself, but probably you demonstrate that you know things how to do, but you should teach them how to do and probably get things done. That is what to me is a leadership thing. So get things, show you, demonstrate what you can do, what you can't do, but make sure you have a good backup for every key role, and make sure the business is not suffering because of one role not being backfilled on time. But getting things done, build relationship even internally within the team is very important. I've noticed, some of us think, oh, they are my colleagues, and when I change my job, my colleague relationship is over, and probably we don't know when we talk. My view, we have to build relations, continue the relations. The relations have to be for life rather than for that specific job or for that specific role. Build relations through the process of your job or work, and probably that is what will give you the satisfaction at the end of our careers, the satisfaction at the end of our lives. Coming to technology, which is my favorite subject, my view, if we are not super confident and strong about technologies, no, there's no future for accountants. If you're not a subject matter expert, at least be the person who understands it, and be that person who kind of really can do talk about technology. If somebody talks about development environment, deployment, testing, UAT, production servers, pre-production, we should not be having a dumb face saying, kab milega mujhe. We should understand the importance of development cycle. We should understand the importance of testing, user acceptance testing, and the importance of pre-production, and which environment it is working, which environment it is not working. Otherwise, people will take advantage of the situation and give jargons and English to us, and we will be asking same question: when will the system be available? Probably that's an area that kind of we need to kind of understand and be lesser dependency on people or on technologies. I think I have mentioned it before. Thinking out of the box is one of the biggest thing we have to focus on. And over and above thinking out of the box, I think everything has to be questioned. Why am I doing? Just don't do the same thing repeated. Many things might have changed from yesterday to today. New technology must have come, new processor must have come, new regulations must have come. And I realized in this process of a busy life, especially the accounting fraternity, probably does not spend enough time on their own health, enough time with their own family. They think, sometimes most of us think, sacrificing family, sacrificing personal life means a lot of achievement and contributions at work. I don't think so. Unless we are healthy, we cannot contribute and do justice for our jobs. So, if you see how many of the chartered accountants or how many other CFOs or accountants were focusing on the health a decade ago versus how many of them are focusing on health now. People go for walk, people go for jog, they do an exercise, they do build six packs, they do all those things, not just to show fancy things, but they're also realizing slowly health is more important than anything else. And unless you are healthy, you won't be able to do a justice to your job or to your role. So it's very important we balance between the health and work. So work-life balance doesn't mean after 8 o'clock I'll switch off my phone or I will not answer calls. balance. I don't think that is appreciated by your employer or appreciated by your senior colleagues. They are mindful enough to call you only when it is urgent, and we should be mindful enough to answer those calls. So typically, work-life balance is always misunderstood as, once you go to office, forget about family, or once you go to home, forget about office. I think it has the right balancing means only important calls after office hours, be at home, but be with family, only important calls is entertained. And similarly, even when you're at work, only important calls are entertained from family and personal matters. Of course, we have the weekends to do our own matters. One of the fundamental learning that I had when I've traveled to around 15 plus countries in my past career is culture of the work. For example, you go, I know they're enemies, but you go to China, I get very impressed by their dedication. I get very impressed by their, genuinity of working. You don't need 10 people supervising one. Every time I go to some, setups here and there in India, my own company, may not be this company, but my own company elsewhere, etc. It's like, you will have an executive who's doing the job. There is just assistant manager, supervisor, and a senior manager. They will all wanted to be a people manager, and this poor executive probably is working. Whereas the other countries, you see, self-starter, the KRAs are set, and the timelines, stats are set, and they go by their job and job description and role descriptions rather than only working with a supervisory. I think following the process and improving the life of people is very important in making life fruitful, both in family as well as on a personal matters. In case of office works, I don't know how many of us really use using reminders, calendars, using technology tools to make your life productive. I think is very important. I've been to a kind of a situation where some good tech tools are not available or not allowed in that company. I was almost like a handicap. I was missing my reminders. I was missing my day plan. I was missing my lunchtime. While I understand over dependency or technology is bad, but I think in this current era we cannot live with. So that's on thing. When it comes to people, I think we should have an ability to listen to them. Typically, they come and crib, and you don't bother. This guy is always cribbing and moving on. Probably, we should make sure some time of ours is set aside towards our team members. You listen to them. You give time and listen to them, and direct them on the right direction. Having a right connect with people is very important. Just because I'm the CEO or I'm the CFO sitting in the large cabin on the corner doesn't mean you lose connect to the ground level people in your own team. Probably having a deep, I don't really mean again, do others' job or skip the organization, reporting structures, etc. But you don't need to be breaking the barriers. You don't need to be breaking the protocols. But you should make sure you have a direct connectivity and understand what every role does in your company. And having to build that network is in an indirect collection of grapevine from your team. To me, do not go by what others says, but make sure you know what's happening on the ground, what's happening on the field, what's happening on desk outside your desk, and it can be a professional matter, office-related work, or it can be a personal matter of the colleague, on his personal life. To me, it is very important. Be connected with your team on the ground and lead them by example. Doing things is an important aspect. When it comes to our core role, one of the fundamental I have learned or I firmly believe is there is no limitation for your role. Don't say that is admin not my job. Do not say that is strategy not my job. Do not say that is technology not my job. As a CFO, who is considered to be the most competent person to step into the shoes of CEO, you would have seen, right? After the CEO or COO, CFO is considered to be the most competent to take a step into the shoes of CEO or COO role, whatever the top role in the company, is primarily attributable to the CFO's ability to understand all the functions and their limitations. If you are not CHRO, just because you are CFO, it doesn't mean that you do not understand the performance life cycle of an employee. It doesn't mean you do not understand the employee attrition and retention aspect. It doesn't mean you do not understand compound benefit analysis done by the HRs in consult with some outside organization. You, to do justice to your own team members, you should understand. To do justice to your cost and financial planning, you should understand the HR matters. And similarly on technology, everybody shouts and thinks, oh, digital is a new game. Yes, I understand. Everybody talks about cloud technologies to be deployed. Yes, I understand. What exactly is mean cloud? You ask 10 chartered accountants, including me. I'm not sure if everybody can talk about cloud. The whole world talks about cloud. We use the cloud jargon. How many of us understand what cloud is? How it is helpful, how it is not helpful, why cloud is more expensive while they sell it as a lesser expensive thing. What are the advantages and disadvantages of cloud? I'm not sure if most of us understand. If we understand properly, I'll be very happy and thankful to those people. And if everybody understands, I'll be even more happier. Probably we are busy such that we have no time to understand world outside of our own accounting, finance, or whatever functions that we are dealing with. I believe and I firmly suggest we all spend at least 10 to 15% of our day's time beyond accounting and finance functions, understand what's happening around the world. Unless you know what's happening around the world, unless you know what's happening in your own company's business, you wouldn't do justice to the CFO's role, or you wouldn't do justice for stepping out of the CFO's role and getting into CEO's role. For example, in the current scenario, if I'm working for an NBFC, as a finance guy, I should know what exactly is our strategy for disbursing additional loans, what exactly is our strategy for collections, how are we incentivizing the collections, how we have to be doing a dynamic incentive policy to increase the collections compared to what it used to be before. Earlier collections were, say, linked to disbursements and collection. Incentives are linked to disbursements and collections. When there are no disbursement, how would you influence for more collections? And what else are good practices for in the industry have to be deployed in the current thing. For example, there is a concept called evergreen. A loan becomes an NPA, or in the edge of becoming an NPA, non-performing asset. And RBI recommends in this stage you disburse a fresh loan and make it as a fresh loan, and do not make it a non-performing asset. That's part of the guidelines. How many of colleagues in NBFC sector really understands it? We think that's a business's job. Probably. Okay, moratorium has come. What technology changes do we need to do for a moratorium? How many of the accountants and CFOs only do this job? Probably it is left to the operations, saying it is operations job. So unless we know, we get involved along with operations and technology, we won't do justice for our audit. We don't do justice for our role. We don't do justice for our team. We are just another accountant in the company. So to me, connecting to the business and deep involvement in the operations has to be one of the biggest requirement for CFOs or who are aspiring to be CFOs. Of course, even if the mid management level, if they are doing a deep dive into operations, they must be the people who get loved by the management. There must be the people who get loved by the leadership, and they must be the people who will grow in their careers. I am a firm believer, again, repeating it, understanding business, understanding other functions is as equally important as understanding your own accounting, controllership, accounting standards, IFRS, whatever we do on day-to-day basis. If you go and talk to people outside your finance function, to MD, CEO, COO about IFRS, they don't care a damn about it. For them, they think it is an accountant jargon, it is the accountant's job, and the CFO will make sure he do it. You talk about business, you talk about value addition during part of your partnership. You talk about how new digital deployments in your collections, or how new digital technology and employee welfare, how new initiatives, how a product can be tweaked and subject to the regulators. For example, IRDA, known to be one of the most stricter regulators, like TRI, IRDA, or SEBI are seen, but they are also kind of encouraging sandbox policies. You don't need to move the whole regulator to get one policy structure approved, right? You can create a sandbox policy and get it approved on a quick path and try your policy being sold in the market. So some of those aspects, I believe, yeah.
Satish sir? You're just working with only one slide, or you're moving the slides because we are stuck at first slide only.
No, no, I've just kept it as one slide and
In
talking.
fact, that's what I wrote, but I wanted to confirm. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So to me, value adding to the business is more appreciated than just limiting our role to P&L, balance sheet, cash flows, notes to accounts areas. So come out of financial control role, come out of financial planning role, doing things beyond is what is appreciated. I think I'm done. If there are questions, I'll be happy to answer. There's much more I can cover, but I thought limitation of time.
Satish sir, if you want to continue, you can still continue for some time if you would like to add some things, because by the time the people can also start asking questions for you.
Sure, I'll take a few more minutes then. So improving the policies and the processes are very important. Imagine a company has got around 1,000 contracts that have been signed, and I'm not sure who in the company, including the legal, would be tracking what exactly are the terms of the contract, when are the contracts getting extended or renewed. So do I get a reminder 30 days ahead of the renewal? What exactly are the laws influencing those contracts, the stamps and registration matters of the respective states, etc., etc. So if you do not have a full-fledged legal leadership, probably CFO or senior member of finance and accounting team should take decisions and influence decision in implementing in a contract life cycle management, which will make sure you don't miss any renewal aspect, you don't miss any commercial aspect, you don't miss any compliance aspect of our life. Always we should not wait for somebody to come and sort out our problem. Probably some of these new tools being deployed would help us remove the redundancy, would help us ignore any misses that we have in our life. When it comes to a conclusive statement, I think we should every day question ourselves, what value add did I do today. Maybe it's a standard management conversation and a talk to say, okay, what value addition I do, but it really works. Take a step back and just do the thinking about the whole day. Where did I went wrong? Where did I did right? I mean, what did I do right? And what value addition could I do today? Did I just do a monotonous job, or did I do any value addition to anybody's life, including to my own job and my own life? Some of those questioning yourself is very important. And as part of our job, we do grooming and nurturing of teams. Who does to us? Do you think your CEO or your line manager is doing it? Well and good. Probably having some time for us, both on a personal front, of course, is very important, but having some time for us on our career and at a fixed intervals is very important. We keep ourselves so busy that we don't have time for our own performance review, don't have time to create our own goal sets and measure our performance against the goals that we have. We think it is non-value added, or we think it is HR's job. If you don't have time for your own career, at least 2 hours a month or whatever, whom are you working for? If your life, your career is not important, who else will be bothered? Don't expect HR to come and chase you 10 times to get your performance appraisal done with your line manager, or do a monthly review with your line manager and a skip review with your super boss, whether it is group CFO or MD or whoever else it is. Probably we should invest time in our own career, invest time in our own life, invest time in our own performance and the performance review. How many of us really take 10 minutes out at the early in the morning and plan the day well? It's a very good theory. If you all hear it, I must have heard it for 10 times or 20 times in the past. How effectively am I implementing what I heard, what I learned is another biggest important step. I think every day I should get up in the morning and do exercise and do a walk or plan my day for 10 minutes. It's really the right investment. 80% of the population suffers with a vitamin D deficiency. We are not exceptions. Why are we taking a risk onto our life and health and then still feel I've done a great job at work, my boss appreciated me? What will you do if you're not healthy? So life has changed so much that you have to focus on your health, you have to focus on your family relations, not just your work. You have to focus on the office relations. Make your life a joyful and a happy day rather than living life only to say a good CFO or a good accountant. To me, a good CFO or a good accountant or whatever the roles we do are good only when we are good in all 365 degrees rather than good only at a career is my personal view. While I may not be doing very justice, in terms of what I said so far, but I'm very committed towards this direction, and I'm very sure I'll be able to do justice at later period. Probably I've learned the lessons, and hence I'm talking all this. But it's very important. We don't need to practically learn the lessons in our own life. If somebody else has learned lessons, better shamelessly copy that and do what is right for us. And one of the fundamental challenges we get through our lives is compromise on the professional ethics and values. Somebody comes to me, hey, I don't want to do that consulting work or professional work, but I'm under pressure because he or she gives me so much business. I don't know how to say no. I think we need to learn how to say a no politely, and also probably tell them a reason why they would say no rather than simply saying no. And I'm sure if you are convinced, you should be in a position to convince others. We are so respected in the society only because of the professional ethics and values that we bring. I think we should continue to keep it at highest of importance in our lives. When I wanted to join CA studies, 20 years ago or 22 years ago, not many of my friends, family network really understand what SEA means. Somebody gives me a definition saying, oh, there is only one CA per district. Somebody gives me a definition saying, I don't know, but I heard it is very complicated. Only 1 out of 100 passes the CA course. So all this comes because of the toughness the exam gets us through, and the never compromised ethics and values by a chartered accountant. We will have always exceptions here and there. I think the profession is always kept at high standards. I'm really proud to be part of that profession in my life. Thank you, guys. I'm done.
Yeah. Thank you, Satish.
Thank you.
Deva, would you like to say something before we take the questions?
Sure.
One second. Thank you, Satish, and thank you, Rakesh, for the valuable input what you have given. Expectations, I don't think there is a limit. Expectations always are going to be on a higher note. When you go to a regulator, his expectations are different. When you go to a tax authority, the expectations are different. When you go to a promoter, the expectations are different. The employee expectations are different. I think the family expectations are also different. And
Absolutely.
most important part, as you rightly covered, with regards to work-life balance, there is no concept called work-life balance. I personally feel, if you are ready, your mind is ready. You are, there with it. When your heart is there with your family and friends. So I think that balancing between this, the measurement from here to here is something which we need to really understand. And sometimes we need to just shut the thing and go back home, be with the family and have a comfortable time. Very rightly put forward, Satish by you, and Rakesh also has covered extensively on the expectation with regards to the digitization. And I think digitization, if it is going to give a trouble to us, then there is a problem. And if it is going to add value and it is going to reduce our thinking ability, then there is a problem. So it's like a Vikram and Vetal story. If you, I don't know how many of you have seen Vikram and Vetal. Pankaj, you might have surely seen. Rakesh might have seen. Satish would have also seen.
Yes.
So, the problem is on the shoulder. And on the shoulder, if you answer it, it flies. If you don't answer it, it kills. And I think a position where a CFO takes from a corporate standpoint, and you have very rightly put so many pictures, and Rakesh has put in all sequence, and you have put it as a rising sun, the issues which are to be tackled in more than one ways. But the fact which is going to go is like, something which we have missed in our discussion. If you can actually throw some light, on the value of ethics is something which, if you can say, what it means. Sometimes you need to be very strong to say that no, thank you very much, I'm not interested. Ye tera job, namaste. And sometimes you have to do the same thing on a different side of the table. So it's actually a different, mix of thought process and the kind of pain you all go through. So if you can both answer on the value system of ethics, because ABCD, which you have been talking about all throughout, which is artificial intelligence, blockchain, cyber security, and then data analytics. What is actually important is the ethics in the entire system. When you want to market something, when you want to do something, and ultimately there are so many things that are going to impact. With technology or without technology, it's going to be ethics, which is going to play a very important role. And those are the decisions which are very tough. Statistical data is easy. Presenting financial statement is easy. But that ethical decision which we need to take, which is an individual, a feel factor, that is something which I would like to, if you can give an example without naming your organizations or something like that, it will be of a great value.
So I'll take one, Rakesh, if you are comfortable. So there are situations where company has to take a decision on say how. I mean, I'm again not naming the organization that I've seen before. There are situations where the company has to take a decision as to how a product pricing is designed. I mean, pricing is done. One, the regulator has given a definition. If you really go by the book, it is okay, whatever you wanted to do. But if you really go by the intent of the lawmaker, it is not okay to do what is currently being done by. So that is where I think as an accountant, CFO, whatever role we are into, I think pushing the management to go by the intention of the lawmaker rather than going by interpretation of the definition at their own comfort or at their own way is one area where I think is the CFO or whoever the senior management has to put down and explain this is how it should be done. Otherwise, there will always be difference in opinions, and then you end up dealing with a third party for opinion, or you take a clarification from the regulator himself. So one of the most of us, right? It influences your performance of the company. It influences your organization. I mean, your profitability and your balance sheet and the market cap, etc. So it's one of the most difficult situation for me to kind of live with. Another situation, move your intellectual property, from one country to the other country because the investor wants you to shift your whole valuation to a different market. But you also have a CFO have got the responsibility of protecting minority interests. Just because somebody has got 60-70% and takes a decision in the board, how would you protect your minority interests? It is not something that and a Companies Act tells you that you need to protect minority interest as a CFO because it is done through the board meeting, etc. But it is our job to explain to the management, hey, look, somebody has invested with a trust on you and with a trust on me as a key management personnel. Let us take their views. If we are not able to get this sign up, let us see if we can convince them. And only post that we do your AGM and take the major decisions, or a board meeting and take the major management decisions. Somebody with billions of dollars of worth, somebody with that big background, CFO who is an employee going and telling them we should not do this way, may not really appreciate it. But if you are presenting it in the right manner, if you are presenting because you're trying to avoid some conflicts in future, I'm sure the promoter or management will accept it. So I have plenty such cases where you present the matter in the right manner and as to why you're saying no. Also go out with a solution as to how it can be yes without breaking the law or without compromising on the value and ethics. It has helped and it always worked with me so far. I had some tough times to deal with, but I think it is only for short term. They appreciate what we are doing in the interest of the company, not in my own personal interest. So it has always been appreciated in the past.
Thank you, Satish. Rakesh, any example from your end?
Tons of examples, but let me just add. I think it's most important is to be ethical in your thinking. I think that's an extremely important part of it. And and I'm just talking about market cap, etc. And the valuation of company of good corporate governance is probably multifold than companies which have very poor corporate governance track records. One of the first things I learned in my career from a very senior CFO was that as a finance professional, you need to differentiate between asset creation for a few versus the wealth creation of an organization. And as long as you understand that difference, you will always be right in your thinking. And that's something I have, ingrained in my thought. And there have been a lot of differences of opinion on this particular stuff with, various organizations I've worked with. But at the same time, you will need to take a call and remember always that if you are a listed entity, the valuation of a company of a good corporate governance is much more, pays the organization in the long term. And therefore, it is very important for us to continue to help the stakeholders understand that clearly.
Excellent. I think, Rakesh, both of you have really touched upon, it was actually generally it is a tough question, but the beauty you both answered, I think this is where the wisdom lies. And both of your experience has been something which is unimaginable and rightly said by the senior most CFO, whoever you work with. Asset creation for few versus value creation for many is something which we all have to understand. And Satish rightly said, it's not only the higher the majority stakeholders who are to be answered. I think the minority also is to be considered. This gives a very simple two wonderful fruits in your hand that you can carry with you and always walk. If you are able to understand and put that line very clearly that this is where I need to do, and I'm an individual who is looking into what my role is and what has to be on a third eye basis. The value is super fantastic. I think these two things which I am always going to remember, and this is actually now registered here somewhere. When I get this kind of tough questions, is very easy to copy paste and answer. But only important thing is we have to realize the value of ethics, which is very important. That takes us to the top level. I think a lot of youngsters are there, which is very important for all of them to understand is, if the value system is right, though you might take a little longer time to reach out, but yes, you will reach where these two gentlemen are. And I think they are a very good example for us to appreciate and be with and enjoy their, see their success and journey. It's tough, but yes, it is admirable always. So Pankaj bhai, over to you. I just wanted to have this question because I was listening to these two people and it was a fantastic answer which was there. Thank you very much. Pankaj bhai, over to you now.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Rakesh ji. Thank you, Satish bhai. There are some questions coming. David, before we take on the questions, one or two things which members were writing on the chat. One is the major concern is of CPE hours. Okay, let me tell you, and a lot of messages keep coming here saying, giving about the membership number. I clarified about it at the beginning also. Look, first thing is, let us understand the criteria for CP hours. Unlike in our physical seminars, the attendance for these webinars are given by the software itself. With each name, you are attending the webinar. Like that's why I said don't write Galaxy, don't write Samsung and all. Say CS Reddy. Okay, when CS Reddy is there, again CS Reddy, how many minutes he was there, it will be mentioned there. So only after ensuring that he stays there for so many minutes, CP hours can be given. Secondly, yes, it's very, very easy for us if you can just insert your membership number beside the name. One, I'm just able to, as looking at participants, say membership 227827 Darshan Jain or Darshan 227827 Jain. Something like that comes, then it becomes very, very easy for us. So another request is you need to be in the seminar for the full duration and then give your correct number. Then only CP hours can be given. There are questions. So I'll first start with
Pankaj, before you start the question, and let me ask two serious senior practitioners. What do the practitioners think is happening in the industry from the CFO's perspective? What do you think are you seeing in the industry, the changes in the CFO world or the expectations?
Yeah, a lot of seniors I can see in the group here. If anyone could like to,
just let them raise hand, Pankaj bhai, and you can actually get them to a panel.
yeah, they can raise the hand and also put it in the chat that we want to come, because Prem Nivasa is here. Prem, would you like to come? You can just put it on the chat. Prem Nivasa or anyone.
Pankaj bhai, Desai sir is there from Chennai. You can actually invite him as well.
Pardon?
Krishna Kumar Desai.
Yeah.
Who would like to be there? Just check with them. Because they raised couple of times hands.
And because I still see some hands raised their way, but Krishna Kumar Desai, sir, do you want me to bring you, give you the power to speak? In chat, you can simply say yes or no. Yeah, yes, ठीक है. I'm just giving I'm putting Krishna Kumar Desai as panelist. Okay, he'll be on video and you can just speak. Krishna Kumar Desai, you are here. You just need to switch on your video and unmute your audio so that you can speak. Mr. Desai, you are there? Yeah.
Yeah, I will be only on audio because I'm slightly on sick leave at home. So I'll be on audio.
Please. Thank you and welcome. Welcome.
If you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah, my discussion with the panelists will be as both of them are rightly pointed out, CFO is one more center as a value addition to the business of the company, which was overlooked so many years back. The last 10 years, the role of CFO has become much more stronger in terms of value addition and the business profile addition for the company. Now, how far going in future, the digital application being so much in the arena, will the role of CFO after the digital application may come down in the area of artificial intelligence? That is the question now which is being crept in everybody's mind.
Okay. If I may add, and Satish, you want to go ahead, Satish?
Oh, please go ahead.
You know, I think any technology just adds to your ability to do things differently. I don't think, if I understand your question right, I don't think digital technologies is going to change anything. What it helps us to do would be literally be able to analyze the data in a more structured manner and help us understand the business, and then be able to assist in the in the growth of the business. I think all such technologies, whether you talk about artificial intelligence, or they are going to only help you in analyzing the data in a much better, in a coherent manner. I mean, and I was talking about, if you put your entire ERP and all the business metrics together, it just gives you a much better way of understanding how your business is performing. Where in the past, we were mostly probably doing it manually. It would take a lot of time, and yet we would only be able to do part of the whole analysis. I think that's where the power of digitization or any such new technologies is.
Well, my point of view was, I'm not talking about the rudimentary work. I'm talking about the judgmental work also being taken up by the AI. As we see from the various bots, we had a seminar here about some time back on the bots being used for the purpose of audit as well as for financial function, and the bots taking over the about substantial part of the judgmental analysis and the judgmental role of the CFO also. Now, with that, are we capable enough to be to rise much above the bots, or much above the level of the synchronization level of the bots?
Satish, you want to take that?
Yep. So bots are clearly garbage in, garbage out. So you set the rules for bots, and the bot does what you ask to do. Bot can never do anything beyond what inputs that you have filled into, say how to respond to a situation. It will simply read the question asked to the bot, and it will just replicate what answer you have pre-fed into. Hardly we have any bots which can be self-learning artificial intelligence. And even the self-learning and machine learning, that's the so-called machine learning, is based on past experience. So you take 10 questions, you answer 10, and every time a new question comes, you give a new answer. It learns out of the history. So in a way, all the decisions taken by bots are prefixed by technology guys with the input from financial, consultants or accountants or whoever is the function owning those bots. To me, bot is a replacement of a human being, but it exactly does what we tell them, what we tell it to do it for us. I mean, be it a chat bot or be a process automated bot, it exactly works the way you design it.
Just to add to your garbage in, garbage out story, Satish, fantastic photo was being released, and there was a news article which has come in the market where one person, he was walking on a single road which was totally empty, and he put 20-30 phones in that small bucket, and he walked around and he proved that it is basically a jammed road, right? And that is how the bots work. So human intelligence cannot be replaced at any given point in time. It will just support them, but not, give a kind of, output which is needed. There is a judgmental thing which is required, which will be done. System will give you 4 options, but they all 4 might be of no use. The 5th will be given by a human being.
In fact, bot is just a replacement of your repetitive, recurring, rudimentary work, and any value add has to be done by human being.
Yeah, in a jestful manner. That's why it's called artificial intelligence and not real intelligence.
Yes, in fact, that's what I just was about to say that. Thank you. There are few questions. Generally, we take it, Satish bhai, and okay, any of one or two, or most of it are being answered. So, but still, what are remaining, I'll try to take it. In fact, so I'll just take it from Gaurav Joshi. After thanking the panelists, he would like to understand from Rakesh ji. In case of multinational companies entities where the parent is from abroad, often we hear from finance department that there is a mandate from parent entity to get even the non-audit work done from a big multinational accounting firms. Request if you could.
Pankaj bhai, I think let us drop that question.
Okay.
Because it's a call which is to be taken at the global level, which we can't help it. So let us not. If Rakesh wants to answer, that is different thing.
Yeah. Rather than multinational, is there any scope for the non people to do the work? If that can be answered, I think that should be enough.
Well, I don't know whether I would like to take that answer, but it's just that sometimes what happens with parent organizations is they know the big firms much better. They know, and therefore dealing with a known entity is probably much better than dealing with an unknown entity. And let me just stop there for the time being.
Thank you. Yeah. One question from anonymous attendee for anyone. Do you feel still finance department is looked as a cost center as it was since decades?
I think it is changing. I think it is changing dramatically. Finance is not seen as a cost center, but also a lot of value addition, done by the finance. But I think it is more value addition done by finance, planning analysis, business support, decision support teams. However, accountants are still seen, the financial control, accounting, taxation guys are still seen as a cost center, is my view. And unfortunately, some of the guys, assume I have some friends in taxation, they are put in a structured framework such that they can't really do a tax planning. They probably becomes a tax compliance guy. They talk about TDS, GST returns, and the complication it matters. They hardly get an opportunity to do a tax planning. I think it is also the management's ability to give opportunity to the team members, opportunity to the respective functional heads in those sub functions of finance to do the value addition. So it is always both sides, right? There needs to be an opportunity and there needs to be a response from our colleagues in those roles. I think management is simply the owners for giving opportunity and making them inclusive part of the decision making. And our colleagues, chartered accountants, should be prepared and ready to catch up those opportunities and do the value addition beyond accounting jobs. And I'm sure that is what you mean by cost center.
And Pankaj, if I may just add there, I think even if we take from a tax perspective, I think increasingly in large global organizations, tax function is becoming a strategic function and not just a compliance function. For example, which jurisdictions do you really want to work with, right? Which is giving you the best tax optimization? How do you structure your entities? How do you, manage the various entities from a global perspective? I think these are some very, very important strategic initiatives from a tax perspective, which adds significant value to the business by reducing tax litigation risks as well.
And one more thing, Pankaj Bhai, just to add both of theirs answer, extending it, recently there was one particular news article which was there, where State Bank of India has returned to Reserve Bank of India saying that can the CFO of State Bank of India, is it required that a chartered accountant only has to be a CFO? And I think we all have to understand the salary of the CFO of State Bank of India is more than the salary of a chairman of State Bank of India. So I think the cost, whether it is a cost, I don't know why was the value assigned to a CFO more than the chairman. But yes, it is a reality that now the strategic decisions which are being taken from a overall 360-degree view, which Satish has also covered very effectively with regards to multiple things. People are now coming and becoming, the expectation from CFO is coming on a different zone. So that is something which I wanted to say, because whether it is a cost center and all, 1 crore salary, which is much more than the chairman, is the answer.
Thank you, all of you. I think one more question is that, dear sir, CFO, as a qualified CA, what points should he keep in mind to understand the whole business, and also how technically he understands the mainstream of the business?
If I can take, the only way we understand business is, getting involved into the business and participating in the operations and reviews. Even if somebody does not invite you, probably a proactive approach saying, hey, I want to understand this. I want to join your operational review meetings. I want to understand business. And I make sure my deliverables from finance and accounting roles are not compromised. And probably that is where you learn business. Sitting in the cabin as a CFO, not easy to understand the business, just doing a Google. Every day is a new learning, every day is a new opportunity. So I think, the closer to the business and operations guys you are, the marketing guys you are, the better you learn about day-to-day tactics. And only then you will be in a very comfortable situation to step onto the CEO shoes or COO shoes, which is typically the aspiration for most of us at a longer career. Rakesh, you can do value.
No, you're absolutely right, Satish. I mean, I think the most important is to be able to, sit down with the businesses and understand how the business works. Now, as fresh chartered accountants, we probably had worked in manufacturing company. And I think the biggest learning in plants is to really understand how a manufacturing function works. I mean, the whole process, right from your raw materials, right up to the final products. And your inquisitive mind, of questioning each and every process or each and every step helps you to understand the business much better. And the more experience you get, the more sharp the questions you are, the more inquisitive you are, the more your learning would be, from the businesses. And that's actually going to be important, going forward.
I was part of ICICI for some short stint before, in the early days of my career. And I was thinking, what did I read, study as part of my CA, and what am I doing? The retail banking, looking at the branch operation, back office, regional processing center. Nothing to do with my job and my studies. And I left the job and joined Coca-Cola. But when I joined HSBC, when I was working with 50,000 people team, working on 50,000 people, 4.5 billion costs across 78 countries, trust me, my exposure with ICSA was much more useful than my chartered account studies, because that is where, when I'm talking to the global heads, global CEOs of the large businesses across the world, that is where I could add my flavor of banking, what customer is, what call center is, what CRM is, what TATs are, what regulation changes, what KYC means, how a physical check process happens, how MICR works, So that means what I was in the front end business, and I moved into a finance function. The front end business was much more useful than any other colleagues of mine who were core accountants working in accounting department from the day one of their careers. So that is when I realized the job that I hated is being the most useful when I was working for HSBC. So that is when I realized connecting with the business is much important. Of course, with Coca-Cola, save a penny for a rainy day, keep thinking about new pricing, new product mixes. How do you spend marketing money on getting the new business, brand awareness? How do you get budgets for additional campaigns, pack price mix, flavor mix, whatnot, launching additional products? So work more closely with the business means, you have much more justification for your job and deliverables.
Thank you. Anything you want to add Rakesh?
Yeah. I mean, we've covered, but the only thing which in one of my first jobs, and I used to work with a FMCG company, was to really understand marketing. And in any product, such a a consumer product, I think how marketing works is extremely important. And I remember when I was in the internal audit, I started my career in internal audit in that FMCG company, and I was speaking to one of the regional managers. First thing he said, Rakesh, do you want to understand the marketing and sales? I said, of course. He said, okay, go and spend one full day with a sales guy, with a sales rep, visit 3 distributors, one very small distributor, one medium-sized distributor, and one large distributor, and understand how do they get the returns of investments on doing business with us. If you think they're making negative returns, then come back and tell me, then I have a problem. If they make adequate returns, then I am looking well after the distributors. And frankly, it was an eye-opening thing going around the cities of the streets of Bangalore at that point of time, going with the sales reps, understanding how the sales happens, how the distributors function, what their thinking is, what goes behind their, pull from our brands. It was a fabulous couple of days.
Exactly, Rakesh. When I joined Coca-Cola, it was March. Hot summer, super demand for Coca-Cola drinks, and I was literally sitting next to the driver who was lifting the crates and selling it to the distributor, or selling it to the outlet, explaining the schemes, explaining flavors, why you should sell more, orange brands than Thumbs Up and Sprite kind of brand. So it was an eye opener, and every time. Whatever I learned is been through articleship, and then you apply it to your education. Exactly every time you do something in the accountants and planning, what comes to my mind is what I learned on the ground. So it's exactly, to me, it's like an articleship. You learn practically and study theory and connect to both and to be successful. So it's exactly the same.
Actually, Pankaj Bhai, we should be inviting them to talk about their experiences on this journey which they have taken. I think that will itself be a wonderful experience to share with all the young chartered accountants across. Great. So Pankaj Bhai, shall we conclude or?
Yeah, I think one last question, though there are many more. I think I'll just ask for the last one. As a CFO, what all points you keep in mind before you sign the financials, and what gives you confidence? I think this question is on both sides. What gives? Anyway, I'll just read the question as it is. The last one, 7:52 p.m.
I will say the first thing I will look is, am I signing something in a jokingly manner? Am I going to go to jail after this or not? In these heightened regulators or the auditors, that's the most important. But it's really not from a financial statements perspective. It's the going back to what we were talking about, ethics, right? Are we following the right accounting standards? Are we following the right accounting policies? Are we making sure that during the entire the financial year, are we really kept our CEOs and the other stakeholders well abreast of what's going on in the business? Because in the end, financial statement is only a reflection of what has happened in the business during the entire financial year. So I think those things are important. As long as you know that you've done things right and it does reflect what it is, and there are known challenges in the financial statements, I would be very comfortable in signing them.
So in my terms, probably I'll have to think in that angle on a daily basis rather than only during a financial statement signature. And if you have seen it, every day, I don't need to think twice on signing the papers.
Thank you, both of you. Both of you, really, it was an excellent session. And we really felt that both of you were talking your heart out, and it was one of the excellent sessions we had, frankly. Okay, so Rakesh ji, generally both of you, it happens that at the end of the session there's a memento presentation and all, but this being a virtual seminar, we can only say this: thank you, Rakesh ji, for being a part of it here. And then I'd also like to thank Satish ji for coming here and sharing your thoughts with our members. Okay, God willing, once these things goes, Corona things goes away and physical meetings are permitted by the institute, definitely would love that both of you come, share your journey and have a good interaction with members. But yes, excellent session, lot of takeaways for the members. Thank you very much for your time. That way you can just finish off with your closing remarks.
No, you have done your completed the entire thing, Pankaj Bhai. But only thing is, for all your information, friends, tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock, we have a session which is on Caro 2020, and you can imagine what is going to be there in Caro 2020. I don't know how many of you have read. If you have not read, kindly join it for tomorrow. And the person who was behind it, our own past president of ICI, Amarjit Chopra ji, who has been a very big instrumental in doing so many things on the reform side. He is going to come and address all of us. So at maximum, as many people can join, let us join. And Satish, for you also, I think, and also Rakesh and the other friends of CFO group, Caro 2020 is going to be an eye-opener. I can only say, I don't want to use more harder words, but it's going to be an eye-opener. It's going to be a different challenge. Expectation from regulator is very clearly pinned down, posted in clause by clause when you start answering. And it's going to be tough. And it's not going to be simple because the expectations are very, very high. So the role of chartered accountant is going to, as a chartered accountant in practice, is going to be different. And also, I think to justify all those points for CFOs, also it's going to be very, a different ball game. But Rakesh Bhai and Satish and both, you have done a fabulous job. I think this is a beginning where I can tell you one thing. It's the first time that we are calling the CFOs and actually doing an interaction. Might be we might have missed in some or other occasion. But the fact is, this is just a beginning, and you both have been the opening batsmen on both sides of the pitch. So, with your names getting attached, I think one is R is Rohit, and our Pankaj Bhai, aapko malum hai. But the fact is, Satish is again Sachin, who has been there. So I think this start, and also we request you to kindly give your suggestions going forward on what are the things which we need to consider, so that we can add value to a lot of people's life. So that's going to be something very important and challenging for us. But we would like to take the challenge positively and see what value add can be done for our members. So friends, thank you very much. Rakesh bhai, thank you very much. Ravi bhai, thank you very much.
Thank
Very
you.
much for inviting us.
Good day, guys.
Rakesh ji,
Bye.
thank you.
Good day.
Satish ji,
Bye-bye.
thank you. All the
you.
participants who are there with us. Thank you. And see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you. पंकज भाई रिकॉर्डिंग रोकना है आपको
मैं रिकॉर्डिंग भी रोकता और बंद भी कर देता